Welcome to the Coop Tank. I'm your host, Steve Cooper, coming to you from SuiteRecording in beautiful Mount Laurel, New Jersey. I'm here with my producer, Joe. But Joe, I heard you played pickleball last weekend.
Yeah, Coop, I did. I played in Cherry Hill. There's a nice court down there. They have about 6 courts, and it's free to play, which is great. And yeah, I had a great time. It was my first time playing, and I felt it a little bit the next day. But looking forward to playing again.
Dude, you're like 30, and you felt it. Jesus. Tell us a little more about SuiteRecording.
Yeah, sure thing. So at SuiteRecording, we help brands and businesses to leverage the power of podcasting and YouTube to generate quality content and to amplify their message and to reach their audience in a fun and unique way. So we help with everything from planning your podcast all the way through to publishing it on YouTube and Spotify and Apple. So we also do mobile recording, live streaming, and some other cool things. So if you're interested in learning more, you can contact us anytime at hello@suiterecording.com or visit us on the web at suiterecording.com. Again, that's SUITE. Take it away, Coop.
Yeah, definitely check the studio out. Actually, Monday, I'm recording my 1,000th episode of my podcast, Cooper Talk. And actually, Joe's going to have me do it here. And I have a very big rock star on who's sold, his group has sold 25 million albums in the U.S. and 100 million worldwide. But I'm not going to say who it is because I don't want to jinx it. But we have great guests today. So there you go. There are no rock stars. Well, unless, some people always say, you're a rock star, and you're not. You're in business. But we have from Crown Home Mortgage and the host of Mr. Mortgage's Neighborhood is James Butz.
How you doing?
Good, good. And from iBridge Global Partners, coming to us from, I believe, Louisville, it's Jeremy Stevenson.
How are you guys doing? Thanks for having me.
I love the accent. And Anna, this guy's been on Cooper Talk. He did a live coffee with Cooper. He was in the first inclination of the Coop Tank. Me and him had a one-on-one interview. And he's back today from Raymond Speaks. It's Dave Raymond. How you doing, Dave?
Hey, Coop, how you doing? And Jeremy, Louisville's one of the best towns on the planet, and sometimes people don't realize you want to go have some fun, go to Louisville.
There you go. So James, tell us a little more about Crown Home Mortgage.
Crown Home Mortgage is a local lender in the New Jersey, Philadelphia area. My branch is located in Voorhees. We are a subsidiary of Absolute Home Mortgage, which is based in Pennsylvania.
Okay, and now Jeremy, tell me a little about your company.
Yeah, iBridge Global Partners is my company. I'm the family business guy, so I advise family businesses, family enterprises, and family office portfolio companies in a variety of different ways, but mostly it's aligning their ownership and family goals, improving their financial performance, and then building businesses that can thrive across generations and or sell for top dollar.
All right. And Dave, tell us about Dave Raymond Speaks.
Yeah, keynote speaker, an author, but everybody knows me as the original Big Green Guy. And I talk about how to leverage fun to help you when life throws you the good stuff, but actually help you when things get heavy and hard as well. DaveRaymondSpeaks.com. And this is what I think I've been put on the world to do is to be able to preach this message.
We're going to stay with you, Dave. Tell us how you got to the position you are. I mean, in a nutshell, tell us how you got, because I know you've also written The Power of Fun, the great book, but tell us.
Well, it's really, I grew up wanting to be my father. My father was a Hall of Fame football coach at the University of Delaware. And he's the one when I was playing for him, he said, hey, look, you're not going to be able to stay at the same university for 50 years. Let me help you get a job with the Phillies. That of course, was a 2-year summer internship that led to me being told to go to New York and get fitted for the costume. And I did whatever they told me to do because I wanted to keep my job with the Phillies. And that turned into the Fanatic, and 45 years later, and all the lessons I learned by having a job with enlightened leadership that allowed something to happen and develop on its own has really created a character and put me into the business of creating other characters, which I learned all about how fun can be vitally important in our lives. And that's what I love to talk about. It's what's great about being with you, Coop, because we've talked about this a lot over the years.
Yeah, it's good. And everyone knows the Philly Fanatic. He's the OG. He's the OG Fanatic. Jeremy, tell me how you got to your position with iBridge Global Partners.
I'll try to do it in succinct format so I don't put everybody to sleep. It's a jungle gym to get here, I guess, is the way to say it. But worked in family business, ran a couple of my parents' family businesses, got into corporate stuff, and was basically in finance essentially, and then got into a professional service firm, did business taxes, got out of there, got into a big consulting firm and did this work across the country from '07 to 11. Then got into family office world, was an investor and advisor. And then I got into a startup world and was an entrepreneur and built a big startup with some guys. And we sold it to a big company. And while I was there, I had some contacts from the old days that got into family business, said, "How can you help us plug in there and create, help us with governance, help us improve, professionalize, and scale some businesses?" And I said, "Sure." And that was the birth of iBridge.
That's cool. I'd say this is the first time I've even talked to Jeremy. I knew he had an accent, though. I knew that. James, okay, because I didn't know that you were on radio years ago, but tell me how you ended up at Crown Home Mortgage.
I've been a residential mortgage lender for 20 years now. Started out in a call center in a cubicle, getting phone call leads, driving all over Jersey, Maryland, Delaware. Have stayed in the residential mortgage world. Do a couple different things now with creative financing, flipping homes, mentoring students or people that want to flip their first home. And I actually just wrote a book called Optimizing Failure, which is about a lot of the failures that I've had in my life. I'm pretty strong in the recovery community. I've been clean for 25 years. Kind of do with a checkered past that's just done the right thing for the last quarter century,
Well, that's good. Well, congratulations on being clean.
Thank you.
Well, we're going to stay with you. 2024, it's crazy. When this airs, it's going to be like the day before, like right almost April. And it's flying by. And I guess in the real business world, which I'm not in, it's the first quarter has ended. Okay, the first quarter's done.
Yeah.
Now, 2024, James, what are some goals you've set for yourself? Have you set goals? Are you someone who sits down and writes goals out? And what have you set?
Sure. So I just started a new venture called Flip University. It's teaching people to flip their first home, acquire the financing, do all the steps, build the team, do everything. And my goal is to help 20 people flip their first home in the year of 2024.
How about you, Dave? What are some goals you've set for 2024?
Well, I'm a huge fan of Dan Sullivan and 10X is easier than 2, excuse me. And we kind of followed that strategy in the speaking world. I consistently get outreaches to design and develop what we call character brands for corporations and sports teams. And I'm continuing to do that. But the real growth strategy is in the speaking business to get this message out. So we also use financial goals because it's a little easier to track and to see. But, looking at, key performance indicators and all those things, I've done a deep dive in that. I've got a good team around me that helps me stay on track. But really, it's about putting those goals down, looking at them weekly, and then discussing where are we. And frankly, this year has been slower in the speaking business, and we're hearing that throughout. And it's in part because of politics and people not knowing where we're going to be, and corporations not investing in big events. Associations kind of calming down a little bit before they make their decisions. So, we're also got our fingers on the pulse of the industry we're in, trying to get some data, but also what can we be doing now that is going to be an indicator of success so that we can continue to do those key performance moves. So being on your show is something we're invested in doing. Any type of media that can get out to folks that you might not be able to reach otherwise, we're invested in that. We've got some PR firm help to do a press kit for me as a hero for happiness, rather than the guy who used to be the fanatic. That's a tough pull, but it's helping us, and that's one of our key performance indicators is get earned media, because it all drives interest and business to our way.
Okay. How about you, Jeremy? What's one of your goals for 2024?
Very similar to Dave, actually, in terms of trying to create awareness. Because I just got back from Atlanta last week, and I actually have a speaking gig going to be set up there. So panel discussions essentially is what it breaks down to. Creating panel discussions with my strategic partners, lawyers, bankers, CPAs, financial advisors, because they all plug into these engagements. I'm not a jack of all trades. So if you can get us on a stage essentially and get an audience of family business owners and start educating them why they should start planning, what they should start looking at essentially, and what the benefit of that is, hopefully we can save some of these Main Street businesses, because unfortunately the scenario is not very pretty when they get to the end of the road.
Okay. Now, we're all in business. We all go, We're in good moods. We're in bad moods. It happens. You know, I wake up, I'm in a funk. I learned lately, when I'm in a funk, I either play Overkill by Men at Work or Eminence Front by The Who. And it gets me or Peace, Love, and Understanding by Elvis Costello. And it gets me in a good mood. But we do wake up in a funk. And I know, Dave, because you're a peddler of happiness, what do you do when you are in a funk? How do you get out of it? What do you do?
Hey, there are various things you can do, and I love the question. First thing that I do when I get up in the morning, I actually have a gratitude journal, and I write down something that I'm grateful for, and not the things you're hoping to get. These are things that you have right now. So this morning was, I'm just blessed with this move that we made, and we're finally settled in the new home, and blessed with the comfort and the beauty of being able to have an opportunity to own your own home. So, that's something that Jim certainly understands, that's part of what he's doing. And expressing gratitude daily and deciding, honestly, I know this sounds like Stuart Smalley, but looking in the mirror and actually laughing or smiling and pumping yourself up to say, look, I'm in charge of how I respond to what goes on today. What is going to go on today, I'm not in charge of, and just say, hey, look, I'm going to really keep it together and try to stay focused on enjoying whatever comes my way and being present. So expressing gratitude, being kind, and knowing what you're in charge of and what you're not will help you.
Now I'm depressed because you didn't put in your gratitude journal, I'm on the Coop Tank. Yeah, come on.
No, you didn't let me get to the last part. Is at the end of the day, you say, tell me something good, it's going to be, I was on the Coop Tank.
All right. How about you, James? What do you do to get yourself out of a funk?
I try to get back to a regimented lifestyle. You know, I'm the kind of person that really follows a plan really well. I also pay attention to a lot of people that are way, way smarter than me. And Gary Brecka is one of my favorite people. So he has a routine where you wake up and you do 30 breaths, inhales of things. Try to get first sunlight whenever the sun breaks around you. That has the least amount of damage to your skin. I do some grounding, which is literally just standing in my front yard with bare feet in the grass kind of thing. I try to that takes me about a half an hour, and I finish up with the coldest shower that my well water in Franklin Township will spit out. I get 5 minutes in there, and normally that resets me to back to nature kind of thing, get the endorphins going, get the breath going, the oxygen in the blood, and then the nice shock, and sets my day up pretty well.
Okay. How about you, Jeremy? What do you do?
I think it's a combination of both of those, but I've been an entrepreneur long enough essentially to know that you're going to get smacked in the face repeatedly. So you got to get it back up and actually ask for more. And that's kind of what the definition of an entrepreneurism is. But part of it is actually having a structured day essentially. So this is what I do, or block calendar, whatever it is. This is the time allotment. And the other side of it is grinding. Basically you're going to have bad days, you're going to have good days, but you do have to have self-reflection. And acknowledge what you've accomplished, where you've come from, where you are essentially, and where you want to go, because some days are not going to look as sunshiny as others.
Okay. Now, James, we talked about funk. Let's talk about motivation. Everyone gets motivated. I get motivated just, like coming in today. It's motivation. When I interview someone, it motivates me. I'm like, all right, I'm going to have fun. And I learn something, especially with this show. And, when I have a celebrity on my other show, I get motivated because I'm like, this is great. But what motivates you, James? Like, when a push comes to shove, what is the motivation factor in your life?
I joke around a lot about it. I have 7 kids. I have 4 birth children and 3 stepchildren. And the fear of not being able to provide for them motivates me more than anything else in the world. The fear of failure, the fear of not being able to give them the life that they deserve. I actually, even though I'm a little older, I'll be 52 in a little bit, I just had a baby. My youngest is 1 year old, And I wake up every morning with her. After I do my workout routine that I just told you about and get everything done, she wakes up between 6:45 and 7 o'clock every day. And I spend an hour with her before I get about my business. I spend an hour with her, and that grounds me totally. I get to see her face. I get to smile. No matter how busy I am for the rest of the day, there's a lot of times I'll leave at 8 o'clock in the morning and I won't come back until 10 o'clock at night, and she's long asleep. But just that everyday reaffirmation that this is what's important. During the day, I might get distracted by life happenings and business falling apart and losing money and kicked in the teeth and all that other stuff. But if I start the day off right with what's really, really important, it kind of keeps you on the right path.
How about you, Jeremy? What motivates you?
Honestly, it's kind of corny, I guess, but I do have a soft spot for family businesses, and that's really why I built this business, and continuing to try to save them essentially from themselves and help them thrive and survive. So basically that's really what motivates you, because I mean, solopreneur, obviously you don't have a whole lot of accountability other than trying to build a business and help your clients and continue to build the business, I guess, and expand it and grow it. But yeah, it's basically the clients, essentially their frustrations, their challenges, and then digging into trying to figure out how to build the business and expand it so you can help more businesses. I mean, that's honestly what it comes down to.
How about you, Dave? What motivates you?
Well, I'll tell you why I'm motivated right now is that I'm listening to Jim and Jeremy. I want to get to know them better because they're doing some of the same things. I think it's great. This is why you bring us together. But I'm the same way. My why is always my family. My wife is such an amazing human being that I'm always trying to live up to what she can do from a selfless standpoint and a giving standpoint. So that's what motivates me. But this message, I really believe in that this message is going to make the world a better place. So you look at the world today, and we'd like to make it a better place, wouldn't we? So I'm motivated by the output of my message. When I first started doing this, I was excited about doing it, but it's been the feedback from the audiences that has really emboldened our team. Evolution of Happiness is our brand, and we're helping people develop their own evolution of happiness. And when they do it and they do it well, it is definitely going to make the world a better place. So my why is to make sure I'm living up to my family. I'll leave you with a really old banquet joke my dad used to tell at all the places I saw him speak. Great motivator. He said he's the sole support of a little gray-haired wife and 4 gray-haired children. And the reason why they're gray-haired is they recognize that I'm their sole support. So there's a lot of motivation to try to realize that I've got to do this work for them, but then to be able to be blessed with a message that's making the world a better place. I mean, nothing could be more motivating than that.
Okay, so we all go through ups and downs. We talk about it. You talk about being an entrepreneur, and we reach obstacles. 5 years, I just popped up on my Facebook. 5 years ago, I got out of the hospital after being in there for 8 days. I had congestive heart. I mean, I had AFib. I had congestive heart failure years ago. I had AFib, and it wore my heart down. And it was an obstacle. And when I got out, I overcame it. I'm healthy. My heart's healthy. So we all have obstacles. What's an obstacle? We'll start with you, Jeremy. What's an obstacle that you've overcame in the last few years? It can be personal. It can be business. But what's an obstacle that makes you proud that you overcame it?
Oh, good gosh. I mean, creating a business is always an obstacle, basically. But yeah, I mean, personally, I can tell you, for me, I love animals more than I like people most of the time. And we lost our dog in 2021. And that was a huge thing and that was the first animal that I had lost, I guess you could say, seeing it through to the end. And that was a huge obstacle. That was my first exposure to losing a family member because my parents are still alive. And that was, it affected every part of my life, my health, my business, my focus. It actually affected our relationship, my wife's and my relationship, essentially. Of course, it brought us closer, but it was interesting to see that little 5-pound furry thing essentially did affect a lot of things when he was gone. And it's a challenge. And we haven't been able to jump back on that bandwagon. From a business perspective, it's always a challenge, essentially, to figure out how to build a business from a blank sheet of paper. And that's kind of what I've done and continue to do. In terms of individual challenge is actually creating the contacts and building the referral network and I guess you could say, the spider web of connections to be able to get to these business owners and then start to have those discussions. Because this business is based on referral for pretty much 100%, which a lot of people's are. But given the nature of this work and the transformative nature of this work, essentially, it usually comes from one of their strategic partners or their trusted partners. And so I didn't know them when I started. I mean, coming from a startup world previously, basically. So, I mean, obviously, the big company that we sold to aside, startup world, I knew investors, I knew my peers, things like that. But I did not have a network across the country of lawyers and CPAs and, financial advisors and bankers and people like that, essentially. So I had to start, with one contact, and then kind of went from there. And that's been a huge challenge, and it's worked out, but it's always a continued effort for all of us, most likely.
Okay. How about you, Dave? What's an obstacle you've overcome in the last few years?
I'll follow suit with Jeremy and do a personal and a business. The personal one was I lost one of my best friends. He played football with him at Delaware. He was, just a wonderful human being, great football player. Brian Adam was his name, and he was so good in size and speed that he was the first time in a long time that Delaware could have a tight end that could split out, and you wouldn't have to change the formation. So he could just split out. And we used to love to watch him when we knew it was a play that was going to crack back on the linebacker, to see Brian hit a linebacker and send him all the way across the formation. He was a guy that everybody wanted to be around. He was this silent giant, but then he could poke fun. He could get other people to do funny things and have plausible deniability. He just was a beautiful human being. Moved to this beautiful home off the Severn River down in Virginia with his wife, Harriet, who he met in college. And we all have been friends for so many years. 3 beautiful girls, all got full scholarships playing lacrosse, some of the best women lacrosse players in the country. And of course, he got taken from us with Parkinson's. So I watched him for 10 years struggle with this. And it hit me harder than I thought it would. I've gone through some tough times with losing both my mom at an early age and my dad. And of course, a failed marriage, a lot of things that, life is going to throw us some brutal things. But this surprised me with how difficult it was to overcome. But I feel good about it because I'm focused on B and Brian and how he gave us all perspective by overcoming that disease. And then when I look at business compared to that, it just is so tiny in terms of the struggles. But for us to move from the home we were in for 18 years, moved into a rental home after we sold that home because we weren't sure where we were going to go, but able to come back to Swedesboro, New Jersey, because my wife grew up in South Jersey, went to Triton High School. Both her parents are alive, doing well, but they've just got into their 80s. They're vibrant, great to be around, and we're closer to them and closer to her brother and sister as well. And what I loved seeing was in my wife's face when I said, "Hey, we're going to move to New Jersey. Let's do that," because she's a selfless individual, and I had her on that side of the Delaware River for 26 years, and now we're here in Jersey, and we've made that change, and I feel like it's one change that I was able to give back to my wife. So those two things have really been very in the forefront of my mind, and keeps me moving. And then I've got a message that I can listen to myself to get better and get over them.
Okay. How about you, James? What's something you've overcome?
There's a bunch of stuff personally. Recently I've lost like 100 pounds. In recovery. I think the thing that was most important to me was my first marriage failed, and I kind of had to do a forensic audit of my life and all the things that I had done and the person that I had become and all the mistakes that I made, and try to restructure myself so that when I got into the next relationship, I didn't make the same mistakes. And now with my current wife and our family, we have this like incredible family structure. Even my ex-wife and I and her new husband, and we just had so it's a super complicated family structure. My one daughter is I raised her since she was 3. Her father passed away. Her grandparents, one of them just passed away recently, and he was like they're all really prevalent in all my children's lives. And he passed away, and we all came together to celebrate his life, and trying to explain that to people like, no, that's my stepdaughter's, blah 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 blah. And we have like family dinners where my ex-wife's mom still comes, and my daughter's, like all these people are at the house, and everybody's just happy. And I really often sit there and reflect, like, this is so cool because it's not what most people think. My ex-wife and her husband and my wife go out together and go places, and people are like, you guys really get along, and we're like, yeah, it's fine, we like each other. I want people to be happy. I don't know why everyone feels like you have to hate your ex-wife and there has to be negative stuff. I think that's the thing that I'm the most proud of, is the family structure that we have, and the love that comes from our household. The structure, and all the kids know that there's love there, and I think that's the thing I'm the most proud of. And business wise, I think sometimes it's a strength and sometimes it's a weakness. Sometimes I think I'm really, really strong, and other times I think I'm not smart enough to realize that I'm dumb, kind of thing. Like I just keep getting knocked down and keep failing, and I'm like, yeah, I'm one step closer to the win, and the wins come, and the wins are awesome. And when the losses come, it's like, well, just shake it off and move on to the next one. And that was literally what I wrote the book about. I think that as a country, we are really doing a disservice to our kids by telling them that failure is this horrible thing, and that we're not keeping score in sporting events because we don't want our kids to feel failure. And I think it's the opposite. I think they need to feel failure, because real life, you're going to fail. And if you have the feeling that failure is this thing to run from and not embrace and not take advantage of, you're going to be so let down by the world. I think that's a huge problem for our kids. I think that's why you see so many kids with, a lot of different problems when they get into college, because they've been put in eggshells and cushioned for so long. They get into the real world and they start failing, and now they need to be on medication, and they need to have all these things because their parents didn't say it's okay to fall out of a tree. You know what I mean? Like, don't climb 87 feet in the ground, but if you fall from 10 feet, you break your arm or you hurt yourself, it stinks, but you live. You know what I mean? You have to experience failure. If you don't approach that girl that you like because you're scared she's going to say no, you'll always no's always the answer. You know what I mean? I think that's a thing that we put in our children, to not experience any type of failure. And I want my kids to fail. I want my kids to lose. I want my kids to suffer some losses. I want to be there behind them and tell them, hey, dust yourself off and go. But I think that the parenting that's been going on in our country, where they don't want to have kids lose and they don't want to have kids feel that fail, I think it's such a disservice that we're doing to the youth of America right now.
It's funny. My mom always taught me to ask. Just ask. The worst you can get is a no. And as for failure in marriages, my first marriage failed, but my second marriage is great because I decided not to marry someone who is evil. Okay, that's how it worked. So
step one.
Yeah. So let's talk about success. As we get older, success changes. And I've said this many times on the show. When I moved to Hollywood, I wanted to be a star. I know stars. It's a rough life. Okay, it doesn't sound, and it's a lot of up and down. You can have I know a guy who was in a TV show for 4 years. He did the movie Coco, and then the show got canceled. He didn't work for 2 years. And so it's a hard life, and I'm glad I'm out of that. But what is success, Dave? What is success to you? And do you consider yourself successful? Because there's a difference. Sometimes people, they don't feel like they're successful. But what is success to you, David? And do you feel successful?
Well, that's changed so much over the years. I mean, I've had a negative critic in my head for most of my life. It's been a long time from just recently, just in the last, say, 4 years, give myself some credit for helping the Fanatic to be the success that he has come to be. And so for me, it's about life experience points. Now, I mean, I'm at an age where I'm, close to retirement, but I don't have any designs about quitting work altogether. But so life experience points, like my wife and I, we got to go to the grocery store. I'm making that like a date, right? We're going to go and we're together, and forgetting about what we're doing, but the fact that we're together. We're planning a trip to go to Italy in the spring next year. We've got a couple of bucket list items, but truly, just getting up at the end of the day, and Sandy's had a couple of tougher days at work just because, work can get tough. And I said, well, let's go out. Let's go out and have a bite to eat. And she loves a cold beer and a piece of pizza. So it's never an expensive thing with Sandy. So it's really about I'm a success now because I'm focused on life experience points. Going out and doing something that would be a moment of joy you're going to remember forever. I don't have to have any fancy. This is a Fossil watch. I was given a World Series ring. I don't have a fancy car. I got a Murano with 110,000 miles on it. I just don't need those things. That's stuff. So I think I'm a success more now. I believe I'm a success more now because of my growth. I'm listening to what Jim says about the morning routine and all those things. So success for me is not necessarily business success, although I've been blessed to have a lot of that. But, I've struggled financially. Business that I had since 2000 almost went out of business twice. Had to get all kinds of help with attorneys and financial people to help me get out of that trouble. So it's about me living a life where I know what's important and I'm spending money on things that will make a difference in terms of my experience. So on that end, I think I'm a big success. And if my kids think I'm a good father, which so far they're telling me, it took me a long time to get there, then that's the best success.
Okay. How about you, Jeremy? What's success to you, and do you consider yourself successful?
So along the same lines as Dave there in terms of that, obviously, now it's about making an impact in certain ways and also experiences, basically. So yeah, if you're going to spend money, spend it on something you're going to remember. I don't need new clothes or anything like that, even though my wife would say differently sometimes. But, and I am a car guy and whatever else. So yeah, I do have a fancy car, but I also have a truck and whatever else. But nonetheless, it is about trying to allocate your time essentially to create impact where I want to, which in this case is a lot of business stuff, family business things. I also mentor veterans, in various ways, basically to help them transition out of the military and into the civilian workforce. I don't think we do enough for them, so I'm more than happy to open my contact list and I guess you could say mentor them in certain respects, even though I learn more from them than they do from me many times. But yeah, I think like Dave, essentially the meaning transitions differently. Obviously in high school and earlier years, I wanted to collect stuff, but I never was buying stuff to impress people, I guess. But to a certain degree, it probably has definitely transitioned. I like my car. I don't care if anybody else likes it. I like my watches. I like it. So it's more about getting things that internally essentially fulfill me and doing things that internally fulfill me and my wife and my family.
Okay. How about you, James?
I think success is kind of a process. I don't think it's actually an event. I've had successes. I've had massive failures as well. One of the main things I try to guide it on, it's always family stuff for me. When I go somewhere and people really compliment my children, I feel like a success. When people say, man, your kid is so nice and so caring and so loving. And I feel like, man, I'm doing a good job as that, and with my current wife and I have been living together for 6 years, and it was a real difficult transition from them moving into the house, and all of her kids live with me full time, and I can see the changes in them, and we have really awesome relationships now. That makes me feel successful. My oldest daughter is 31. She's got a 3-year-old kid, and another one on the way. When things happen in her life and she calls me to talk to me and we have heart-to-heart talks, I feel it's like a success. I don't want to say money's not important, because it is. I would like to set up things in my life so that my children and their children and their children can have stuff. But along the same lines, like I drive a 2005 Prius with 180,000 miles on it. I put 60,000 miles a year on a car. I'll probably, until I retire, I'll never have a really nice car because I beat the hell out of them. I'm not about super fancy things. I have a nice house. I like to do nice things with my kids. I like to have that, but I'm not a flashy kind of person. Like at one point in time I was, except for my collectibles, my baseball collectibles and stuff like that. I'm weird. I'll spend 3 times as much money on a piece of memorabilia than I will on the car that I drive every day, just because I like to have that kind of stuff. I have no problem with, oh, this is a $10,000 card. I'm like, oh yeah, but that's good. This, and this. It's a Hank Aaron game used, whatever. But I'll get that for sure, for sure. A car, nah, forget. I can get that for $3,000. I don't need that. That's 3 Mike Schmidt rookie cards. I don't need that. But I think I think I have. I wouldn't say I'm successful. I think I've had successes. Yeah.
Okay. Now this follows up this question, and I want to just give a one sentence answer. Happiness. Success and happiness doesn't work hand in hand. Happiness to me is when I'm sitting in the other room. Me and my wife live in a condo, and I hear her laughing at TV. That's happiness to me. I'm like, you know what? That means her life doesn't suck. She's. I can hear her laughing, and I go, "Oh, it's pretty good." Now, and she comes to my comedy shows, and I don't know if she laughs. I don't see her, but I make fun of her a little bit. But give me a one line, Jeremy. What is happiness? Give me one line. What is happiness to you?
Happiness is actually freedom, I guess, to tell you the truth, basically these days. For me anyway, yes, to your point, it's being able to have a nice day. It doesn't matter to David's point and going to an expensive dinner or anything like that. No, it's just going to a regular place and spending time with the people you love. That's really, for the most part, happiness.
Okay, Dave, what's happiness to you?
Happiness is a feeling, and it's personal to everybody. And for me, happiness is 5:30 on a Friday, because it's the harbinger of a weekend to go after those experience points. And by the way, Jim, that's the last ball that was thrown in the 1980 World Series.
I love it. I love it.
And no one knows about it. And I have no provenance other than I have a story that makes the most sense as to why. We'll do that offline. But there's no price for it, but I'm happy to show it to you.
I love it.
That's awesome. James, happiness in a sentence.
Every morning, I wake my wife up with my baby kissing her on the face. And when she opens her eyes and she sees that it's Miriam is my daughter's name. It's Miriam giving her that initial smile that she gives, the recognition of being awake. That's happiness for me.
So every morning I wake up, and I swear to God, because my wife gets up so early, and she's up, and she's on her phone playing Words with Friends. So every morning, I'm like, what the? But hey, it makes her happy, and that's all that counts. Okay,
Absolutely.
we're gonna start this question with you, Dave. But you can't say your father, okay? Because I know your father was a very big role model and mentored you. But who is someone who's been a very important person in your life to be developing of who you are now? Like I had an English teacher, and I actually talked to him at a networking event, and he said how to write a how to do something paper, and I wrote how to give a wedgie, and he encouraged that, and I got an A, and he encouraged me that, okay, I can write funny, I can do this. But who's someone who, in your development, besides your father, because I know you're very close with your dad, and he mentored you a lot, who is someone has shaped you to who the person you are now?
Right? Can I do two real quick?
Sure.
The first one was Coach Majoli, my Babe Ruth coach, which back then was the transition from Little League was Babe Ruth. And I had a bad experience trying to be a pitcher in Little League. And he told me I was going to be his left-handed pitcher in the first meeting with the whole team. And I said, no, Coach Majoli, I can't throw hard enough. Who told you that? I said, my Little League coach. He said, look, don't worry about how hard you throw. You're going to be my left-handed reliever. And he turned me into a great pitcher, and I learned so much about baseball and life with him. And we ended up winning the Babe Ruth championship my second year there, and it was really transformative for me. But with the Phillies, it was Bill Giles. Bill Giles was the one who said, hey, go to New York, get fitted for the costume. And when I told him I was nervous about it, he said, go have fun. That's all you have to do. And then when I was doing some things that he didn't think was the right thing to do, he never told me not to do it. He said, why are you doing that? And I said, I'll stop, Mr. Giles. He goes, no, I want to know why. And then we would actually collaborate. I was 21 years old. This was Bill Giles, the president of the Phillies. And he wanted to collaborate with me. And that's the reason why I think the Fanatic has been a big success, because they let it happen. And the enlightened leadership from Bill Giles was the most transformative mentor in my life, other than my dad, because it got me where I am today, was that type of leadership. And it's so rare to have to see that type of leader in business. And Bill's an amazing man, and I could not, and the Fanatic would not have been successful without him.
Okay, how about you, James? Someone important in your life that to making you the person you are.
Sure. There's a super long story behind it, but the quickest one is there's a guy, his name is Curtis Wright. He's a tall, thin, black guy with a velour sweatsuit and a Mercedes-Benz necklace. And he hugged me at a 12-step meeting, and he whispered in my ear that I never had to feel the way that I felt at that moment ever again. And he changed my life for sure. He didn't look like me, didn't talk like me, nothing about him would put you and me and him in the same room. But he knew the pain I was feeling, and he sponsored me for my first couple years in recovery, and really set the groundwork and the foundation for me to, stop looking at differences and start looking at similarities, start opening up and feeling people's pain and having empathy, and change the way I felt about the world around me, and kind of gave me the pay it forward mentality of, okay, now you're this way, you've gone here, now your responsibility is to give it back to everyone that needs it, and your debt is never paid. No matter how long you do this for, you still owe, keep giving back. And that's what I base my life around.
Okay, how about you, Jeremy? Someone played a role in your life.
Man, there's a list of individuals, but I mean, I guess I could use the poor dad, rich dad analogy essentially. So yes, it's my dad certainly played a role in that. There's no doubt, because I mean, he was a UDT frogman and all this good stuff, and achieved success in the personal life and all this good. But he also had a friend that was exponentially more successful to him that I met later in life in terms of high school years, and ended up doing an internship, Don Mattingly, and yeah, honestly, he taught me about finance. He taught me about the money's made on the phone as opposed to in person, and all this good stuff essentially. So it was a lot of business, but it was also a lot of life education. And some of that life education couldn't come from my dad just because he was my dad. So, you have that role model, and you have that scenario where you don't always listen to him when you're younger, but you'll listen to somebody else that's external to the family. And so, he was very down to earth, but nonetheless, it was a lot of good knowledge there. And of course, I've had bosses and things that I've stayed in touch with, teachers in different respects that have also taught me various aspects. But yeah, I think those two main life lessons came from rich dad, poor dad scenario.
So I've met you from networking. I mean, whether it be LinkedIn or just networking, I've met you in person, James. I've never met Dave, but I've talked to him many times. What makes you a good networker? James, what makes you a good networker?
I think I listen well, and I relate to people well, and I like to talk to people. Like we talked a little bit about my podcast, and the whole basis for it is it's a spoof on Mr. Rogers, and I love to learn about people. Everybody's got a story. Everybody's got a journey that they've traveled, and I'm fascinated by people's journey. I love to learn about. I don't care right now. I mean, I do care a little bit right now what you are, but what made you what you are? What's the pain? What's the struggles? Why are you how you are? And talk a lot about the road to get there. I think that makes me a good networker, because people see that I genuinely care. I'm not blowing them off. I'm not waiting for my turn to jump into the conversation, and I'm not looking to just do business with everybody. I really like to learn about people, and I think that gives me a greater connection to people in the end.
How about you, Dave? What makes you a good networker?
Well, I appreciate the question. I was a horrific networker. I didn't even know what that meant. And I, in part because I think some of my upbringing, but also my job, for the 16 years I was with the Phillies, whenever I got in a social situation and people found out what I wanted, what I did, they just kept asking me questions. So I didn't learn how to listen. I didn't learn how important questions were and how good questions were when you were given a question and it was about you, how you could share. So what I've learned, and it's been a long time coming, is certainly what Jim said was to ask questions and to listen, but truly listen and respond with another question, and make sure you're asking at least 3 questions before anybody is allowed to ask you a question. So you just try to focus on them and listen, and then follow up with something that you heard that you might be able to help them and be in service of them. So I'm a much better network now and get more value out of networking by going in and helping somebody. And once you do that, then they're going to open up any doors for you that you maybe didn't even know were there for you. So go in there with the idea of service and listening, and asking at least 3 questions before you answer one.
How about you, Jeremy?
Yeah, I mean, I guess in similar format, I follow the we format, not the me format. So, I mean, I did not have to do a heck of a lot of networking for a very long period of time in terms of my career, because I knew people, and that's who I needed to know essentially, and built or achieved whatever goal I was trying to achieve. But to Dave's point, I think in terms of this company has definitely made me to create a much broader net, a much broader inventory of individuals and contacts and relationships. And it really does come down to that know, like, trust factor. I mean, I can talk to a wall, I can talk to anybody and usually develop a relationship. But, you know, how do you continue to build that relationship so it's not a one-off conversation? And that's something that I think a lot of us struggle with based on the conversations that I have. And yeah, I don't approach things as a me, I approach it as a we, because it is a collaborative event. Everything that I do is pretty much involves others because they have specialties that I don't. So, you know, it's like surgery. If you need brain surgery, hire a brain surgeon. If you need heart surgery, hire a heart surgeon. And that's really always trying to bring the team together to achieve and deliver the best client experience or the best deliverable, period.
Okay, Mel, this is a part of the show where I usually, even though I love LinkedIn, I bitch about it. Something that bothers me on LinkedIn, because there's everything that bothers me. It better be the over-likers, the people who are just full of shit, the self-proclaimed experts, which I'm going to be an expert in saying who's a self-proclaimed expert. But I'm not going to bitch today. I'm going to ask a question, because I was thinking about this the other day, and there's no right or wrong answer. And I'm going to start just by saying, my wife is religious. Like, she's Catholic. She gets the little envelope in the mail and she sends it in, and I'm like, as long as it's not my money, because I'm Presbyterian, and ours is like a Presbyterian wedding. It's like I do hit the buffet. You know, it's like there's no. I went to a Catholic wedding and I'm kneeling and I'm up and down. I'm like, holy shit! Like, thank God I was divorced, so me and my wife got married in a Methodist church or a Lutheran. I don't even know what church it was, but it was a short ceremony. But that being said, religion and politics. Do you think there's a place for them on LinkedIn? I don't. That's my opinion. I know some people who do. They'll know. But James, do you think there's a place for religion and politics on LinkedIn?
In a weird way, yes, because I like to support people business-wise that I feel are somewhat aligned with my beliefs, whether it's compassion or whatever. And in a way, like, I won't go to a restaurant if I know someone who's a outright bigot, you know what I mean? Or someone who's gonna, when the CEO of the company said he was going to donate 20% of his profits to Donald Trump's campaign, I said, I'm never shopping at that guy's place again. You know, so I think that there's some, but again, it can also be a trap. It can also be a door where I still want to surround myself with people that aren't like me. So I don't want to close myself off to anyone who doesn't think like I think. But from a financial standpoint, I do tend to support people that I feel are aligned with me.
Okay. How about you, Jeremy? You think there's a place for religion or politics on Facebook? Which, by the way, I know a guy who went like completely, he told me his friend went completely hard right. And the reason was he figured he would alienate 50%, but then 50% are going to do business with him. I just couldn't live like that. You know, I want to be liked. It's a thing, you know. But Jeremy, religion and politics, you think there's a place?
You mean on LinkedIn, not Facebook, I guess, but I'm
LinkedIn, not Facebook. Two different worlds.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it wasn't designed that way. And I mean, you know, for better or worse, I don't think it belongs there. Yeah, I mean, how do you separate it from the life, though? I mean, that is a challenge, essentially, to be able to, as Jim said, you know, business does intermingle in personal life. I mean, unfortunately, in the United States, or for better or worse, I guess, again, to say that term or phrase, you know, we do intermingle our identities with our jobs a lot of times. And of course that infiltrates how our political beliefs, our religious beliefs. Yeah, I mean, I guess to answer the question quickly, no, I'd rather not see it on LinkedIn essentially and create it strictly as a business platform, but I don't necessarily know if that's going to happen.
Okay. How about you, Dave?
Yeah, I'm going to waffle on this one. I listen, in the business community, just from an HR standpoint, I mean, it's like there's so many hot buttons that we live in a world today where you can go ahead and express your opinion, but then you might lose your job because of that. You know, so we have freedom of speech, but there's consequences, and so those types of beliefs, you know, I hear and feel, but in a business setting, I just don't think it's valuable to have a platform where you are saying those things. I try to stay as neutral as I can because I don't want my message not to be received well. So Jim mentioned something there. If this person donated to this campaign, I don't want to do business with them. Well, I just want to avoid closing doors to anybody that I could have access to about a message that has nothing to do with politics, nothing to do with religion per se. You can. My dad used to say, you know, I was raised conservative. My dad said when he was asked how conservative was, he said, "I'm just a little right of Genghis Khan." So he. I mean, I grew up in that atmosphere. Delaware, you know, we don't care what your politics are. You know, if you're a Delawarean, you're our guy. I mean, Joe Biden is a personal family friend. Knew my dad well. Played freshman football for my dad. He's a Delaware guy. You know, I don't have to be aligned with him in any other way than as a human being. I care for him. I love him. He's done some amazing things for us. He was there for my father's memorial service. Joe Biden's my guy. If our politics not aligned, you know, the ballot box is a different thing. So I just think it alienates and separates us, both religion and politics. You know, once we get in there, we get to know, and we're in a safe space and we can share. I should be able to say, I'm a conservative and absolutely embrace and love somebody who's a liberal. That's just my belief. So I can handle it, but I'd rather not have it because it's a divider. And it doesn't allow us to get together. And that's what I want to do, is bring people together and then learn about them. And I not to belabor it, I had a cab ride, a very transformative cab ride when I was over in England working for Manchester City, the premier soccer team. Guy was from Syria. He was a Muslim. He was wearing Muslim headgear. I got in the car. I was tired from a long flight, and it was a 45-minute drive. And he started to talk to me, and I said, you know, I really want to relax a little bit and sleep. And I could see in his face that he was disappointed. So I ended up having a conversation with him. He told me about his whole family in Syria, how he lost a brother and a sister to conflict and war. And I shared about my family, and he talked about his big family dinners and all this. And when we got done, I got out and I asked him, I said, why, you know, you and you're a Muslim, I'm a Christian, I come from America, you're in Syria. How come we as countries can't get along? Because it's easy, David. Stop listening to our leaders, because it has nothing to do with our leaders. We all want to be safe. We want to be around the people that we love and care about the most, and we want to share. I'm like, okay, that politics gets in the way of that. Religion gets in the way of that.
All right. See, that's a good answer. Now, this next question I started a few weeks ago. I don't know, a few months ago, and I like it. And this is going to be interesting because both James and Dave have written books. But what's a business book? And I don't read business books. And I will say that I don't find them interesting. I'd rather read something else or listen to something about a musician or, you know, the 80s metal scene or stuff like that. But what's a business book that it's made a difference in your life? Jeremy, is there a business book? And if you don't read business books, that's fine. Say, I just don't read business books. And don't say Jack Kerouac's On the Road made a difference, because that book sucks. It's overrated. But so Jeremy, what's a book that made a difference for you?
Wizard of Oz. No, I'm just kidding. I mean, that's a great movie. But, you know, honestly, I mean, I don't have specials. So, I mean, I literally just finished reading this book, basically, Every Family Business and 12 Common Sense Questions to Protect Your Wealth. It was a great book. Now, is it going to change my life? No, I knew half the stuff in it, but it actually does provide some very, very good information for people that don't necessarily know that stuff and don't live in the world that I do. But yeah, I mean, I've read, Scaling Up, Start, I guess you could say Start with the End in Mind, I think is the name of the book too. That actually is a very good book. And it's probably one of the best books from a entrepreneurial perspective that I've read. Because I mean, really, you always really have to figure out what you're doing or where you're shooting for from an X marks the spot so you can build to achieve those goals. And I mean, that's kind of what I do now. So from a business perspective, there's lots of good books, but probably Starting with the End in Mind is at least the one that comes to my mind right now.
How about you, James?
Probably Ed Milet, The Power of One More. I think it's a really good mentality to have where if everyone else is doing 10, you do 11 and don't quit. And the people that, a lot of people that fail don't realize how close they are to success when they quit. So if you just do one more, just keep going. If everyone in the gym is doing 10 laps, just do 11 and see how much better you are than that and how much the separation is from you to them. So I think that's probably the one I would recommend the most.
How about you, Dave?
Well, I mean, just creatively, I just got finished with Rick Rubin's book, The Creative Act, A Way of Being, is just phenomenal. Who Not How by Dan Sullivan, which is stop asking how am I going to do that and say who's going to do it for me. And then for writing, especially in a marketing format that I'm in, is Ann Hanley's book, Everybody Writes, is phenomenal. So those are three. I've been reading. I read constantly, and I go with a business book and brain candy. So my brain candy is John Grisham, Stephen King, etc. But I mean, I've got thousands of them now. I mean, it's just been an amazing thing. And I read slowly, but I do most of my reading in the bathroom. So it takes me some time, but I'll tell you what, I've clicked off about 100 books, in the last year and a half. So it's working.
100 books in the bathroom. You must have you must have good roughage in your diet.
I got colon problems. All right. I got colon problems. So I'm spending more time.
Dave, we need to talk.
Final question of the day. You guys have been great. Final question. Okay. Someone comes up to you. They can be starting a new career. They could be getting out of trade school. They could be getting out of high school. But they come up to you sort of looking at you as like a mentor. And they say, how do I make this work? What do I do to succeed? What do you tell them, James?
The first thing I would tell them is just do it. So many people think, I'm going to plan this out. It's going to be the right time. It's got to be perfect. It's got to be this. It's got to be that. And in the past 3 or 4 years, I've been in the room with really, really successful people. And I've had a couple opportunities to talk to like billionaires. And almost every one of them, when I'm done speaking to them, has communicated that they really just do it and they figure out how they're going to do it as they're doing it. The plan gets different as you're moving along. The road gets more narrow. Just go, jump and figure out where you're going to land as you're on your way down. But if you sit in the room and try to do this perfect plan and scales and ROI and spreadsheets, most times you're going to be sitting there doing it while figuring this all out while everyone around you is actually doing the work.
Okay. How about you, Jeremy?
Yeah, absolutely. Analysis paralysis is real. I mean, you can sit there and plan forever, but a well-executed plan today is better than a perfect plan tomorrow, essentially. And it's just the way it works. I mean, you got to get started. And to Jim's point, I mean, if you start now, you're never going to have the perfect plan, but you got to be able to iterate. It's always going to be able to set up different tent poles along the way. So you set up different markers as terms of, is this successful? If I'm proof of concept, how does that work? And the road, I mean, as you asked me how I got to where I'm at, it's a jungle gym. I mean, it's not going to be a ladder. It's going to be a jungle gym. You're going to go from here to here to here to here. Very rarely do you go straight up the ladder. And I mean, I guess going back to the failure conversation, I think a lot of it is, you learn at least I've always learned the biggest lessons from failures too. So yeah, you're going to iterate, you're going to fail essentially, and you figure out how to pivot and you figure out how to make it work. And that's the way that you continue to build your career and build your journey.
How about you, Dave?
I love the concept of die with zero. So I'm another book that's been transformative in the last month or so. And that is just to get people to understand that you may not be able to follow your passion and make it into a business. If you can, you're blessed, you're lucky. But if you're working and you're successful, being able to earn a living, which is what you got to focus on, is just invest in those experiences and not stuff. The stuff lasts long enough to disappoint you. The experiences have the good sense to end, so that you have, these moments of joy to recall. So dovetailing on Jeremy and Jim, those basic components are absolutely vitally important to mentor. But ultimately, what are you going to do with your life? Just make sure you're investing in the right things, and not worry so much about having, a lot of money that you don't have a chance to spend when you die.
All right. Well, this was great today, guys. James, how can people get in touch with you if they want to find out about mortgage, find your podcast? How do they get in touch with you?
The website is askmrmortgage.com. And you can just search Jim Butz, Crown Home Mortgage, Google, anything like that. There's a bunch of different things. Or my cell phone number's out there all over the place, 856-571-1857.
How about you, Jeremy?
My website was actually hit by a cyber attack. So yeah, normally I would say my website, but apparently it's being rebuilt right now. So LinkedIn, I'm all over it. And to Jim's point, my email, Stevenson at iBridge Global Partners, my phone number's on LinkedIn, all this good stuff. So it's easy to get a hold of me.
And how about you, David?
LinkedIn's a great place to find me, but it's DaveRaymondSpeaks.com, or just Google Dave Raymond, and you can find my information there.
So people, go check out all these wonderful gentlemen that were on my show. You can email me at the Coop. God, I'm losing it today. I drank too much Guinness yesterday. The Coop Tank at yahoo.com. The Coop Tank at yahoo.com. If you want to advertise on the show, it's a great place to advertise because I get business leaders, and the people who watch this show and listen to this show are also very successful in the business world. They find it very informative. So that's a great way to convey your message. So hit me up at the Coop Tank at yahoo.com. Also, go watch past episodes. Go to YouTube, search the Coop Tank, subscribe to it, review it, make a little comment. This will air on the March 28th and March 30th. I have a show at Studio 67 in Medford. It's myself doing comedy, and then Nigel Bennett, who was in an 80s band called The Members and in a punk band called The Vibrators. He is also best friends with Steve Lillywhite, who's the biggest record producer in the world. He'll be doing a 25 to 30 minute acoustic set. Then we'll be doing a sit down chat about the 80s music scene. So it's at Studio 67 in Medford. It's $20, BYOB. Email me at thecooptank at yahoo.com to get more information. And coopertalk.net. You can find 999 episodes of great musicians, actors, Emmy winners, Rock and Roll Hall of Famers, and Dave Raymond. So please check that out. Also, look up Joe Gangemi and Rich DeSisto here at SuiteRecording. Joe kicks ass as a producer. Email them at hello@suiterecording.com. I'm Steve Cooper. You guys have a good weekend.